too many devices.
Tell me when it's 1 minute to go.
Maxine Walker's got a suspicious package now. They can't mess with anti-Maxine. I will cut somebody.
Since you're live too, that was just
Oh, sorry. Again? Okay.
No. Yeah.
Napkin.
Yeah, napkin.
You start the spillage early.
Come on.
1 minute to go.
1 minute. Right. Thank you, Jia.
We need some good 90s dancehall. A good 90s dancehall pattern.
Check on your thing.
Come off and go back on. So up and on.
I don't see us.
Okay, it says you're live now on
Yeah.
Caribbean
You're now
Facebook.
live. We sound low.
Sound check.
Mic check 1, 2 is the place to be.
What is this?
Michelle, are you on? Can you see us? Can you hear us?
Say something.
Something.
Okay, turn yours down.
I'm down.
That's Facebook, right?
Somebody volume.
That's me.
Mine is down.
Mine off.
See, mine is off.
You're that joke? Eh?
Yeah.
No, I don't have any volume. You're that joke about you guys looking lose weight, don't shampoo your hair in the shower. Because extra body and volume when the shit runs down.
It's ridiculous. Who says that?
Hi, Melanie. Thanks for tuning in.
It's what time now?
I can't tell.
Yeah, man.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Take it out.
Howdy. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening for another edition of the Caribbean Edge. I don't know if you saw the post, but this Caribbean Edge episode is on our schools killing creativity, or do schools kill creativity? However you want to take it. Be free to chime in. We're going to have a lively discussion, and hopefully we get to cover a lot, because this is a lot of ground to cover, but hopefully we'll make it through unscathed. Right. So, a priest and a goat walk into a bar. I got your attention, right? Okay. A priest and a goat walked into a bar. But I only say that because as soon as you start out like that, you get people's attention, right? And that's what we're hoping happens in school. That doesn't seem to be happening, right? We turn a keen ear to whether it's a joke or a story. More purposefully, stories. We love stories, and that's one of the things that we can do to combat this. But the thing is that we're losing our kids. At least that's my summation. I don't know if you guys have a different view on what's happening in our schools.
So before we jump into that, Sean, you want to introduce yourself?
He's so excited about the topic.
Yeah, I'm Sean Spalding.
I'm Dawn Wilson. Welcome.
Shauna Whittingham.
And Keith Hearn. Welcome.
Glad to have you.
Yeah,
so
thanks for that.
Back to the question.
Thanks for that.
Never mind, anytime. What question are we going?
Well, the question really was it's about how are we losing our kids, and I started out with tongue in cheek, starting out with a joke, but it's really just to illustrate a point. We started out that when I got your attention. So obviously there are ways to get kids' attention, right? There are obviously ways to get people's attention.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So what I want to start out first is what are our youngsters being taught? What are they being instructed to do once they enter the classroom? And how is that affecting their the learning momentum? Yeah. And what role do the teachers play?
I think to your point, the joke you just made is we all have different learning styles, right? Some of us need to see it, some of us need to hear it, we hear better, some of us need to feel it and touch it. And I think if we're going down to the basics, like if we would even go back to kindergarten kind of thing, is which is why I kind of like the Montessori setup, which is they watch each child and kind of let them see what they gravitate to and figure out their learning style, and then teach according, or kind of focus rather
Based on that child's learning.
based on that child's learning style, because everybody is different. I don't know if your original question is are schools killing creativity? I feel so bad for the schools and the teachers and the administrators, because really they have to adhere to the rules that they get put upon them to get the funding, especially in public schools. So it's almost like their hands are tied, kind of thing. But I'm sure we're going to get into that. But definitely, there is concern. It's of major concern. One of the reasons why I'm backing Gillum is because he is so pro education, and I think that's where it starts. I think it starts, that's a fundamental for a good economy, for a good structure.
Gillum being the Democratic candidate for Florida State Governor.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, and to add to what Sean has said, I believe that schools and education and the system in place does serve a great purpose. However, I also believe it doesn't allow the teachers to use or to pinpoint those kids that are uniquely and superbly different. For me, for example, I'm the touch, the feel, that person that can be so creative, and yet I found school rather boring when I was in school, and so I think teachers as well as parents play a huge part in developing their children and the creative sides, even if the school's hands are tied.
Right.
And that's what you have to do, recognize your kids' talent in your home, not leave it on a school system, and allow those kids to play sports, to do dance, to do music, whatever interest they find. Encourage them outside of a system that may not be at a point in time that is accepting of it. And there are some teachers, and kudos to them, that are being creative. I've seen videos with teachers dancing with kids first thing in the morning, taking the time out. And so I'd love to see our school system change and embrace more of that, to allow kids to feel like they're not just going to school.
But before you answer, I just want to try to get us back on really what we're trying to find out is, what do you recall, or what do you know as what children are instructed to do once they get in the classroom? Because what we're trying to do is really attack this from the beginning. So as soon as the school bell rings, when they come into the classroom, what do we know of what the students are asked to do, what they're instructed to do, and what are the rules? I mean, what do we know of that? Nobody here is a teacher, but
the code red drill. Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I digress.
But what are they told to do? Because I think that has a direct relation on how they're gaining the knowledge that they're supposed to be gaining in school.
Well, I think, as far as I can remember, growing up in Jamaica, going to school all through Jamaica, as opposed to going here, the one thing that we used to always have is some sort of assembly in the morning. That's the first thing.
What's assembly?
Assembly has something to do with acknowledgement of state and of religion.
Okay, that's for every class? Or
No.
The entire school came together.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
that's
all
the
the
beginning.
classes.
School.
Well, I'm talking just about your classroom.
Oh,
Your
the
classroom.
classroom
So when you're in a
setting.
classroom, though, yeah, what were you instructed to do as soon as you got in the classroom?
Me? I don't remember anything about that. First of all, you're asking the wrong person. No, I'm just kidding.
And Sean, it's different. We all went. Well, I didn't go to prep school or high school here, so I guarantee you that what I did in the classroom, high school, is going to be vastly different than what my children who attend a school in the States. Are
But some
asking.
things I believe are general, no? Like you're told to take a seat.
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So take a seat, and how's the classroom generally set up? Like, you know, you have different rows. Take a seat, be quiet.
Well, now they're told to put away their cell phones, or maybe not. We didn't have those in class.
Right.
Put away your phones, put away your electronic devices.
Right.
I've heard my kids come and tell me that they're told that at school. Be quiet, stop playing, and pay attention to the teacher.
So there's a single focus.
Yeah.
They want everything shut down everything as you have going on in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Single focus.
Yeah. The reason we're really posing that question is because I see a strange dichotomy between how kids are. There's interactivity in everything else that they do in life. You know, whether they're on Xbox, whether they're on the phone, whether they're on TV, because TV is interactive now.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many modes of life that are interactive to them,
Mm-hmm.
but when they get in the classroom, they're told to pull back, no interactivity. No, I need you to stop, drop, roll, stop, pay attention to the teacher.
Right.
So how do you think that impacts the learning?
Well, of course, as I said before, just what I said just now, is that it's a single focus. So now your creativity is shut down because there is no room for that whatsoever. It's going to be shoved down your throat. I'm sorry, did I say shoved down your throat?
Yeah, you mean the brain.
I don't mean it. Yeah, it's, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. It came out. Yeah, man. So it's it's what's gonna be fed to you.
Yeah.
Yes. What's gonna be placed in front of you for you to ingest. All right, great. So that's what I meant. Not shoved down your throat.
You guys see any strange relationship between what happens outside of class and what happens once they step foot in class?
Oh yeah, it's different, but I think it's also different for good reasons. You know, I mean, there are classrooms that can become unruly if you take what happens outside the classroom into the classroom. So there has to be a level of focus,
Structure and anything.
balance. It doesn't have to be as structured. What I'm saying is, I mean, you've seen the videos with kids being totally unruly. The same behavior on the playground is in the classroom. So where does it end? You have lessons to teach. That's the system, right? So in order for the teachers to teach that, the children have to calm down. They have to put away their tools, their distractions, so to speak, and focus on the lessons. So I'm not here to say the school system doesn't work to give you the education, because that's the process in place, right? It's how you're going to become, if you have a career in mind or certain degrees that you want to obtain, you have to have the lessons. But my point to all of this is, where's the balance to allow the creative mind to work as well? Or those kids that are fidgeting and not focused on schools, is there a place for them? Is there a process? Are they being supported in the school system? So I think there has to be structure.
Well, I find it peculiar when you say unruly, or they're picturing these kids running around the place, and we all know that they're kids like that. Me being I was from I was from that crew, but I don't know if that's a reflection really on the student or that's a reflection on the teacher. And I know when I say that, I'm not making any friends
or the parents, right? It's a reflection on the parents.
On the parents too, but I'm not placing all blame on the parents. I'm placing blame on the teachers too, and they need blame because some teachers shouldn't be teachers, right? So, and I know I'm not making friends when I say that.
But that goes for every profession. Not everybody should be a doctor. Not everybody should be a parent. Not every,
But I think we like to gloss over that, and we glorify a lot. In certain professions, we glorify sometimes unwarranted. Glorifying certain professions where some of them suck. If we're really being honest. And for me, with the as far as when the kids get into the class, I just wish that we had more conductors versus lead singers. That's the kind of the relationship I see. If you notice, when the conductor is in front of the orchestra, he's in front of the album cover,
right?
But the conductor never makes a sound. All he does is he brings out the best in every piece. That everyone that's involved in the orchestra. Right. He's able to pull the best from everyone that's involved in the orchestra. The lead singer, on the other hand, is out front singing, and if their voice isn't that good, the whole group sings, right? And I just think that teachers, they're
I missed the person who commented, but somebody just chimed in on YouTube and said, which by the way, guys, we're YouTube live, so you can check us out there. Somebody asked, you know, when you say that teachers suck, if you would elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think there are some teachers, without going too deep into it, there's some teachers that get into it maybe for the wrong reasons. You know, I think at from inception, once they decided, yes, I'd like to be a teacher, they see something in themselves, and it's something that I know it's not in me. You know, it's a desire to teach, a desire to lead kids or to lead young adults or what have you. And when they get into the school system, it's almost like something changes, and they succumb to what's in front of them in kids' lives.
But let me ask you this, because I know I have quite a few good friends whose children are homeschooled for a long time. Some who have just started, and I asked them, you know, it's my passion. So I asked them, what is the difference? What you notice, not about the what you have to put into it, but what do you notice with your child when you go to the store, when you go out, when you're home, or their personality? Are they different? Are they more assertive? Are they more withdrawn? Are they more opinionated? Are they not? And I think there's much more of a backbone because of they're not. I always want to think of corral and stuff down through and stuff, because I think that there should be a certain amount of freedom to think. So that's just my personal.
But
at the same time, when they're homeschooled, everybody used to say, well, you need that interaction, and they can get that interaction from either playing a sport or going out or interacting with family. Or that is interaction that is very valuable.
The studies are showing that homeschooling kids are scoring better when it comes to the aptitude test. They're scoring better.
I have two friends who homeschool for just a short period of time, as far as like 1 or 2 years. And when their child did go back to the school system, they're actually ahead. But I wanted to make the point that just like any profession, being a good parent means, you know, once you have more than one child, you know without the fact that they are different. They're absolutely different. They're different in terms of how they listen, how they interact, how they communicate, how they learn. So just like being a good parent, it's similar to be a good teacher. I know that teacher, well, let's even back up. To teach means to facilitate learning, right? And one of the things I struggle with, especially when you get to the latter part of elementary school and you go into middle school, I have nothing against testing. You do have to test to check the level of, you know, is this person eligible to move on? Are we creating a situation where this child is going to succeed? You know, because you have to learn the fundamentals in order to grow. So nothing against testing. We all can sit here. Some of us test well, some of us don't. But unfortunately, in my humble opinion, able to facilitate the actual learning. It's prepping for these tests in order to get the funding. At the end of the day, what do I always say? When it don't make sense, follow the money. You know, and if we keep going down this road, you know, we did an episode, I forget what the title was, but we talked about Finland and their education system. You know what's sad? Do you know what's sad is that the countries who are doing very well in terms of education actually took ideas from America, from this very country, and implemented it and started making a change. I know I'm probably like way ahead of, as far as, but I wanted to just go back to, I think what makes a good teacher is, okay, what's Sean's style, what's Dawn's style, what's Keith's style, and even though they're teaching the same lesson, at the end of the day, they need the 4 of us to learn X, right? However, how they communicate to Keith, how they communicate to me, how they communicate to you.
Well, we're going to get to the solutions. Right. We're going to get to the solutions.
Right, so I want to read a comment from Michael. Thank you for commenting, Michael. Kids don't play anymore. For me, that's one of the biggest killers of creativity, especially at a young age. So true, I appreciate that.
The next question I want to really pose to you guys is, and to myself, is how do we measure intelligence?
Well, first of all, can I just interject?
Sure.
Yeah. What do we see as intelligence? What is intelligence? That's the first thing. Before we even start to measure it and see who gets a higher grade, maybe that's how you measure it, who explores a little bit more, who studies beyond whatsoever they are, and intelligence at the basic level. Because some people may say,
Common sense.
oh, we're in trouble then. We're in trouble. Common sense.
But,
all right.
Well,
we get. I know we get. Why?
Oh, we don't get there. We don't get there.
This show needs to be like 2 hours up, as our shows normally should be. But the point here is, let's say for instance, someone says, "All right, we're all gathered here, and we're going to judge your physical intelligence." There's something called physical intelligence. You know,
There's emotional, there's
emotional intelligence,
absolutely.
and so forth, right? So there was a guy said, so hold on, suppose you ask a fish to climb a tree. Fish can't climb a tree, how are you going to put him in and you're going to say, no, he's not intelligent? Of course, that's way outside the gamut. But
you get the analogy.
But you get the analogy.
Right.
How are you, what is the grid? And how do you place everybody in a category? And we may be just totally different and we interact, or it comes back to what you're saying, how people work, what makes them click. And if you deal with them on a certain level, some people are, like to actually do the actual work to understand and know, and some people just want to sit in an auditorium and you tell them, I grasp it.
There's a certain level of discernment that's needed by the teacher to be able to figure out exactly what each student needs to be able to grasp it.
Right.
And you said that, I know you said that kind of tongue in cheek, but there's some truth to that. That's a big part of it, behavioral psychology.
Oh, yeah.
And finding out what's making these kids click. But how would you see that we measure intelligence now? What do you guys say that?
I would say a combination of it's being that well-rounded individual to the discernment that you talk about, to be able, picture, if we were to go back to the old age, which individual would survive? Which individual would survive the cold? Which individual would survive the bear attack? Which individual would not eat the poison? So it's survival. So if you bring it to present day, it's like having that, I said common sense, but I was dead serious. Having some level of common sense and street smart, as well as it's that well-rounded individual. Dancing and playing an instrument improves math skills. And the first budget that gets cut whenever there's no money are the arts and the sports, and those have proven to make a well-rounded, intelligent individual.
All right, can I say something? Walking into a room, this is how we measure intelligence. Everybody ready? You ready for this? Make sure you're taping. I said tape.
Yeah.
Boy, old recording. Make sure you're recording. Make sure you have your VCR set.
Line up.
Oh Lord, I won. But anyway, so here's the thing. When you walk into somebody's room or office and you see the plaques, you're intelligent.
Oh no.
Woo!
No.
You see, no, I'm just talking about. Let me tell you, it's a greatest thing when I say all those all over the place, and if it's well placed, with a light on it.
With a light.
Okay,
No,
for me, it's being a well-rounded individual. I recruit a lot of people on actually every single day. I speak to people from a human resource standpoint every single day, and I can tell you some of the smartest people or the most intelligent people I speak to are people that have lived a real life, that not necessarily well-traveled, some of them are, but they're definitely well-versed, well-spoken, they've read a lot, life experiences have added to that. Common sense is a huge part of that. I don't think all those diplomas and plaques, they don't mean as much to me. They may mean something to someone else, but you can have all the diplomas in the world and no individual that has some level of education as well as just naturally intelligent person. There are people that are just naturally intelligent, naturally smart.
I think
they
all people aren't all people.
I think
it
everybody
depends
naturally
on
intelligent.
how
I think so.
not everybody. Sorry.
So Sean, before you interject, I don't want to make it seem like we're discrediting people who have gone through formal education and received those degrees and those diplomas, and even if they're well placed with lights on it, it doesn't mean that that person lacks intelligence. I think your point was, it's not just about academics, right? Getting those degrees, because there's some colleges you go to and you just pay for that shit. Mm-hmm. You know, you really didn't pass it. Or there's some people who went to Harvard and barely scraped through on D pluses or C minuses.
Yes, a big part of it is what can you afford. But they're less relevant now. I'm sorry, anybody over there who has that same wall full of plaques, full of degrees, you're not as relevant as you were 30 years ago.
Yeah,
you know,
the world is changing.
We don't live in a world anymore. From where I sit, we don't live in a world anymore where anybody cares about what you know, because you can know everything. You know, we have the library. We have a full library at our fingertips. It's really about what you do with what you know. Mm-hmm. That's why I think there's a danger. There really is a danger with. I know you guys mentioned common sense, but there's a danger in resting on the whole common sense paradigm, because I don't want the kids that are coming up today to know what I hold as common sense. Because what I hold as common sense may be complete unadulterated crap.
But that's what I was going to ask you. What do you consider common sense?
No, well, here's the thing. I think everything that we hold here as common sense, I think a portion of it is crap. And I say that lovingly, right? But here's why I'm saying that. Because we're basing that based on the limitations that we've encountered throughout life.
Exactly.
Right? So when when children are born, they have a way that they see the world, which is nothing is impossible. So when you ask them a question, that question or that answer that they're going to give you is not couched within parameters that we have already set up for ourselves. Okay. So kids are going to look outside of that. I think everybody's seen that TED talk from Ken Robinson when he asked about the paperclip. You know, you can put that several different ways. You know, if I ask somebody, if I gave you a cement brick, how many things could you make with it? Right. You know, and I asked somebody that earlier today, and you know, they were thinking simply that has no idea what a brick. They might think that brick is the size of this house. Right. So now I can make a whole playground. Right. What do you want, Sean? Right. You know what I mean? Right. But we are limiting. Right. So that whole thing of common sense is dangerous. Mm-hmm. It really can be dangerous. So I think we need to look outside of that.
I want to bring up a perfect example of what you just mentioned. And it was this little girl, and she was off in the classroom just drawing. And the teacher said to her, "What are you drawing?" She said, "A picture of Jesus." And the teacher said, "But nobody knows what he looks like." And she says, "They're about to find out." Because her mind is like, her creativity hasn't been killed yet as a child. Yeah. They can go anywhere. And that's why it's so important to foster your children at a young age. They will go into the school system, but I honestly believe parents, what you do at home, the moments you spend cherishing and being active with your children. I know the teachers have a lot of responsibility because they can spend that.
Oh, it starts at home.
I think the parents beyond the teachers have that responsibility, even more so.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. This evening, I took my daughter to her ballet class, and we were talking afterwards, and she said something, no filter, no nothing, and you know, there's something liberating in the truth, in the truth, just speaking the truth regardless of
consequences.
I mean, you want to be mindful about, you don't want to hurt people's feelings, etc. You know, and I was just thinking to myself, I was exactly like that as a child, but I find myself, the society has done something to me because now, you know, I think about that before I say it. You know, there's a book I read called the 5-second rule, where, you know, you basically count down from 5 and things that you would just naturally hesitate on because society has put this you're like, well, that's just inappropriate to say. The 5-second rule, kind of you count down, and when you get to 1, you just do it or say it or what have you. But it's just sad because now it's almost like these restrictions, we're retraining ourselves to just let go of these bars.
But going back to what you said is where our restrictions that we've lived with or grown with and where the world is today and the creativity that we're seeing with technology and with kids being more visible and using not just the school system, but if you look at how people are making money today, it's not because they went to school for it. People are leaving their corporate jobs that they've gone to school for years and making millions of dollars on social, doing the stuff they love. Exactly.
Yeah. What if you don't love? What if you don't love anything?
There's something.
Who don't have no love? You don't have no love, Sean?
No, I know.
Yeah,
well, that's why some people are for
I know that.
No. The reason I asked it because I was struggle with that, right? Because I have things that I like, I have things that I love, but I don't know if I have any vocation thing that I am passionate about.
Is there anything you would do for free? Anything you enjoy to the point where if money were no object, you would spend your time doing just that?
Well, all those things I still do them for free. But there's a difference between doing that and being completely passionate about it. I mean, this is your passion. You die for it and whatnot. And the reason I'm saying that is because I don't think I'm the only one. I know there are many other people out there that if they had to put their finger on it, they couldn't say, damn, I don't know. I mean, I like to do a lot of things, but I don't know if there's anything that I'm that passionate about. I would do that.
I don't think we're going all the way to that much passion. But there has to be something that if I ask you, what is it, I would say that if you get up every day and you do it, it wouldn't matter to you. So it's not that your passion, but you wouldn't mind.
I got a list.
He could still be searching.
One of them was,
he could be a late bloomer.
So one of them.
No. But you're saying late bloomer. Suppose I don't bloom. The reason I'm saying that is because there are many people like me.
Yeah.
There's so many people like me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go another step further. Most people are like me.
Yes.
I believe that. And the reason I say that is because, and what brought it to mind is because, you got familiar with that book, Eat, Pray, Love? Mm-hmm. Elizabeth Gilbert. So Elizabeth Gilbert did, she was being interviewed and they asked her, they didn't ask her, she was talking about this passion and pursuit and whatnot. And for love nor money, I don't know what that passion is because I don't have it. I know many people that don't have that passion, that driving force for anything. They like a lot of things, and so it's spread out, and it made her think, and she brought up the analogy, and I loved it. She said that it's jackhammers, some people are, which they love something, passionate about something so much, they pound it, and it's nothing deters them from it. This is what they want to do. They get lost in it. Nothing else concerns them. This is what they love to do, right? And then there are hummingbirds. And hummingbirds cross-pollinate. Right. And I find myself as a hummingbird, admittedly, I have so many interests. But that doesn't involve a passion.
Okay, Sean, if money were no object, right? If you could get...
we're just digressing real quick. We'll be back.
If money were no object, and not for you to answer this, but just to think about, what would you spend your time doing?
There's many things on the list.
And so maybe you have multiple passions. Things that
But the thing is, this is within the context of vocation.
Right.
It's in the context of vocation. I mean, we all love a lot of things, but if I were to pick, this is coming from they asked me when I was in second grade, so what would you like to do? I said theologian. So I used to think about I'm really screwed up in the head. There are many things. There are several things that I'd like to do, which I'm sure there's several things that you'd like to do.
Oh, yeah.
What's your real passion? And this is what you want to dedicate
your life to? It doesn't have to be one thing, though.
Yeah, so that's my point. Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
So,
okay. But with the children that are in a school system that has an agenda, and like we've discussed, money-driven, test results-driven, there are kids within the system that are lost. There are kids that drop out of high school, kids that make it through high school but end up in college and drop out of college, kids that end up being depressed because they feel left out,
No inspiration.
because whether the teachers or their parents have not recognized that creativity, that curiosity, and supported it.
So what prompted that? That's my next question. What prompted our move away from creativity? What has prompted that?
Well, I think it comes on to what's that?
Money.
Yeah,
Follow the money.
Yeah, follow the money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You think
that's
that-
why.
just
No. I think a lot of it has to do with
There's a
you know,
brainwash
you do have,
element.
there
Yeah.
is. You know, you have a mentor. All right, so let's think about the two main structures that you normally have growing up. One is your family. The other one is your peers that you have, that you choose as your friends as you're growing up. And the other one, which you spend a lot of time with, is everybody who you work with, right?
Yeah.
So you have these three that are going through, and most of the time, so you have a hierarchy in your workplace.
We talk about adults.
Huh?
You talk about
Yeah,
adults.
well,
Okay.
all right. So let's take out the workplace, school. So you have schools, you have home, you have school, and then you have your peers outside of school. So you're always gonna have those three. So school change into workplace when you get older, but you always have these three tugging at you. And the one thing that you're always going to have is your peers either telling you what you should do or what you shouldn't do, or else, don't talk to me. Or when you're at home, you don't do this, otherwise you're gonna get punished. When you go to school, don't do this, otherwise you're not gonna make it in school. So you always get a lot of don't do this, don't do that. And after a while hearing this badgering from everybody, you tend to say, okay, so I'm just gonna streamline what I do at home, I'm just gonna streamline what I do at work or school, and I'm gonna streamline when I'm around my buddies. I just have to stay within these little parameters. And your creative mind is sort of closed in on you. What you used to have when you were in kindergarten, when they say, be free, color, put blocks together, do this, do that, and sort of look and say in what area you should be going or what area you think needs to be nurtured. And then when you come to pick up your child and say, boy, little Johnny he had all the Legos and he built this and he built that. Oh, little Susie, she had everybody following her. She's going to be a man. We tend to always hear this when it comes to turn her into a lawyer. Look at her, she's talking. You need to turn this one into a doctor. Then we try to impose our will on everybody. So normally looking down the hierarchy, there's this.
So creating barriers is what you're saying.
Yes, that's it.
Beautiful.
Yes, we have boundaries.
Prompted
We
that
have to
move.
navigate through that. Yes.
To answer your question, I think it's along the same lines. It's the money. It's right. At least America, the situation, the crisis, quite frankly, that we're in.
Explain the money. What does the money
Meaning,
relate to?
so as far as my children are in elementary and middle school. So I'm mainly talking about that. What happens when they go to school is preparation for these standardized tests. And it's just, the teachers are a nervous wreck. Okay, because their schools need to have a certain pass rate in order to continue to get funding from the state. So at the end of the day, how much are the children actually learning? I'm not suggesting they're not learning anything. And I'm also not blaming the teachers. In my opinion, their hands are tied. The administration at the school, right, that they need to follow. But outside of that, I also believe that, and I think this happens across all countries, is that level of brainwash. It's just meaning they have, and there's an agenda of things that they want you to learn, of things that they want you to believe, and a way that they want you to behave. It is control. It's mind control.
But that wasn't. Wouldn't you say that was in place before standardized tests?
Oh no, for sure.
So it's really not standardized tests.
No. I'm talking about multiple things. No, but that absolutely was in place when we were in school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's that element.
Okay.
And then money is the cost of education. How much is it costing children to go off to college? It costs thousands of dollars. Kids are coming out of school bankrupt before they can even get a job. So that's part of the money.
But the high cost of school wouldn't prevent creativity.
Well, it's the high cost of school is supporting that education system and not necessarily the creative minds. And also, there's the downside to not fostering that creative mind is there's examples of kids that I think I forget her name, Julianne, that she's the dancer. That she was always fidgeting in class. They took her to the doctor, and they spoke in front of her and got all the complaints about how much she didn't pay attention in school. When they said let's leave the room and turn on music, she became the biggest dancer in Cats and multi-millionaire because a doctor recognized that she wasn't sick. There was nothing wrong with her. She was just not set up for a school system. She was, her interest was dancing.
Okay. All right. Well, I have my own view on what's prevented us from really drawing out the creativity from kids.
And what is that, Sean?
I think it has. I think it's cultural. Honestly, I believe it's cultural because the same can't be said for everywhere in the world, but in the Western world, I think that it's cultural.
But is it solely cultural?
No. I don't think it's solely
but
cultural.
But I want you to expand on that, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for instance, a lot of it has to do with authority, right? So you walk into the classroom, there's an authority figure where everything is couched in hierarchy and authority. So we started out, when we started the whole school system, with authority that was placed in the heavens, in as far as these are the tenets that we're supposed to live by, whether that is to Quran or whether it is to whatever ideology you practice, right? That's where the authority lies. So now we've been moving into a different kind of arena, which is secularism, humanism, where we're embracing who we are as humans. We're understanding that we know ourselves. We're understanding where our concept of consciousness and mind comes from. And that is where our authority is, which is where we're coming from.
Continue to be controlled.
Continue to be controlled. We'll continue to believe that there are certain precepts that we can't go beyond that. This is exactly where we are. It doesn't allow for much critical thinking. Right. Because if you're told a story, or you're told folklore, and you're told this is that, and then you question it, and they're told, no, but that's the way it is, you're out of line. Right. That doesn't really foster critical thinking.
But I think we're all saying the same thing, which is that mind control, right? And what's the reason for that, you think?
Well, mind control I don't know, standardized tests would be mind control.
I'm not talking about standardized. Two separate things. A standardized test is a money thing, in my opinion. And what we talked about happening from when we were in school, which is to get in line and pay attention, and this person is in charge, and you don't question what this person has to say to you, and here's a story, and they tell it to you over and over and over again until it's sinking and you believe it. Yeah. And this was happening before even schools were really set up. Christianity, multiple
parenting.
Right. So my question to you is, why do you think that exists?
Because we have to derive the authority from somewhere. I mean, we're as humans, we recognize patterns, and we're trying to find a pattern in why we're here, what we're meant to do, and that leads back to a hierarchy, which is, why is that? What are we supposed to be following? So it came. We started out with developing our own hierarchy, which involved the heavens and gods and whatnot, and then we started believing in ourselves. Slowly, we're reaching that point. The danger I find, and this is why this conversation is so important, and why schools are killing creativity, is because the future has a very bleak outlook if we continue on that road. Because we're now going to be placing unknowingly some people, but for the most part unknowingly, placing authority in algorithms. And algorithms meaning for what artificial intelligence is able to tell us, right? Because I don't know if you ask someone initially, do you know yourself? They will say yes. I know myself. Nobody knows me better than me. And I would argue that no, you don't know yourself.